Record to this. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody that's watching. My name's Kyle. I'm the founder and chief architect of Ion. We're a software company located out of Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. And we do data analytics. We help schools pull out of their data silos to help them make better decisions, data-driven decisions on curriculum, instruction, behavior, attendance, intervention, any of those different types of things. And so we are very fortunate to have an absolutely wonderful customer base. And three of those absolutely wonderful customer base people are on the call with us right now. And we wanted to just have a conversation. We wanted to have a conversation specifically about chronic absenteeism. And if it's a little bit noisy, we're at the National Association of Independent Schools National Conference in Nashville this week. There's a lot of NA, Nashville, NA. I'm in an exhibit hall and my headphones didn't work. And so if it's a little noisy, I'm going to try to talk loud and hopefully the people at Bloomberg next to me don't get too annoyed. Today we have Jason Malashek. He's an associate principal at Piper KC up in the Kansas City area. We have Jennifer Davis, who is a very well-known, very respected superintendent out of El Dorado, Kansas schools. Hey, every person I talk to just absolutely loves you. And so there we go. And then we have Kevin Hansford, who is out of Kingman, Norwich, which is west of Wichita in Kansas. We have a lot of customers in Kansas, and they're all doing amazing things. And so, we have some big districts, and we could have brought them in for this conversation, but I really wanted to make sure that some of the smaller districts have a voice, and because most of our customers are in the same range of the districts that you see here in terms of size. And chronic absenteeism is a problem whether you have 50 kids in your school district or you have 35,000 or 40,000 kids in your school district. And so what we really wanted to do was just kind of dig into what you three are doing to kind of battle the problem, how you're using data, tell us a little bit about your stories. And so first, let's start with introductions. And so I'm going to start with Jennifer this time because we actually had a practice round just a couple minutes ago and she didn't get to go yet. So I'm going to start with Jennifer. And Jennifer, would you kind of give us a little bit of a background?
So good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Davis. I am the superintendent in El Dorado, Kansas, USD 490. This is my 9th year in the district and 2nd year as a superintendent. We are a smaller 4A district. We have about 1,700 kids. We have 3 elementaries, a single middle school, and a single high school in our district. And then we have a virtual school, and we also have an extended campus of our high school as well.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thank you. And Jennifer, I was trying to block out the background noise. Jennifer is it's kind of a really fun kind of background story with Ion because they were using another platform, and there was one building that was really dug into it, but it wasn't really doing what they needed to, but they weren't convinced that they were going to just kind of drop it. And so they brought us into a head-to-head competition at the same time and said, hey, cage match, whoever wins goes. Can you talk about that just briefly?
Yeah, Kyle's not exaggerating. That's pretty much what we did.
Yeah.
We so when Kansas changed some of its legislation around Parents' Right to Know and Student Data Privacy Act, we had another platform that we were using exclusively because it offered us an SEL assessment option. And so when those laws changed and we started to find other options for that, it really highlighted what that former platform could not do. Because once that was off the table, we weren't able to customize reports. We weren't able to do different things for different buildings, which was critical in our district with 3
Yep.
different elementaries. And so I actually responded to one of those emails that most of us delete.
Yep.
And I don't think it came from Kyle, but it came from one of his staff members. And I said, hey, I'd love to do a quick Zoom with you and see what this looks like. And so we did that. And we were still under contract with the other platform. And so and instead of just kind of having nothing, that's when we said, well, could we do a year, kind of a pilot year with you guys and still have this other platform? And we did run them simultaneously. We asked Ion to build in a lot of different customizable reports and kind of tested them out quite a bit to see if what they were telling us was true. And then at the end of that, we ended up dropping our old platform and moving everything over into Ion. And now we have multi-year contract with them. So it wasn't quite the cage match, although I think if it maybe had been closer, it might have been, but everything else is true.
It was pretty one-sided, if I do say so myself. Yeah, excellent. Kevin, let's hear a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I am Kevin Hansford. I am the superintendent in Kingman Norwich USD 331. Just beginning my fourth year there, and we are a district about half the size of Jennifer's district, but we're not too far apart. Actually, we're in pretty close proximity. So we are I think we're very fortunate in that we have done a lot of work around professional learning communities and the use of data. And so we became very data reliant, and we're really struggling with the fact that data existed in, multiple platforms, multiple websites with all these different logins, and getting it all in one place was a real challenge. And so after talking with Jennifer about the work that she was doing with Ion, we immediately reached out and started doing some of that work. And I think what's unique about, again, Ion as a company is that they have staff that then when you tell them, hey, we would like to have this so that we can compare these things and look at these things together, they're able to build those customer reports for you. And so it really helps us to make sure that we are accurately identifying our problem areas and that we are identifying interventions that are targeted specifically at those areas and that we are not missing the mark. And so it's been really great. We are very early in we're still building all of those things right now, but just the few things that I've been able to share with our building staff, they are so excited about what's coming.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to have you on board. And then we're going to go over to our OG. Actually, Piper was our second Kansas customer. We started in Baldwin, and then they somehow, got connected or something like that. And so Jason was on the committee that helped bring Ion in, and he's kind of the Ion champion over at Piper KC.
That's right. So, my name is Jason Malashek. I am not a superintendent like the other two, so bless you for doing that. But I am the assistant principal at Piper Creek Elementary School, which is a grade 3 through 5 school here in Piper. Piper has around 2,900 students. And just in my building alone, we're a 3 through 5 building. We have close to 600 students just in grades 3 through 5. But our journey, I think we've been with Ion for 5 years, I think is what we decided, Kyle.
Yep, 5 years.
Our fifth year. Yeah, our 5th year here. And this kind of all started when I was at a different elementary school. I started taking, just like Kevin said, there's so much data that are in just totally different parts on different websites, but there's also things that people were just taking on Post-it notes and in different notebooks. And it's like, so we need to put this all together. So I started building spreadsheets, and our superintendent at the time saw my spreadsheets and said, hey, can you do this for the whole district? And I was like, I was scared to death to build something that large. I don't think this is going to work. But he had worked with a different, with a data warehouse company years before it in different districts. So we started looking at those. And the thing that sold us on Ion was that even the platforms that he had worked with before, they were not as fully customizable as what Ion could give us. And when we were talking to Ion, they said, hey, here's what we need, here's what we'd like to build. But if we come up with other ideas, if we want to look at things in different ways, can we do it? And the answer came back yes. And Ion is not disappointed. I mean, we've been with them for 5 years, and we don't see any reason to stop the work that we're doing, because we have every piece of data that we have in our district flows through ION. And it has really helped us change things at the student level, at the building level, and at the district level, because now we can track our student interventions. We can see if our at the student level to see if individual students need some help. And instead of having those conversations about how we feel students are doing, we can actually say, no, here's what's actually happening. Here's what's actually working. We can see if our interventions themselves are successful. We can have those talks as a building admin team. And then as a district, we can look at our big picture to see what is really happening with our programs. And so it has just been a really a blessing to have in our district that we can make data informed decisions across the board.
Outstanding. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for being here. Kevin, I wanted to start with you because as you mentioned in your intro, you have done 4 years, essentially 3.5 years worth of PLC work to kind of get your staff to where you'd like them to be with using data. And now you have a platform to kind of take that to the next level. Specifically, when it comes to chronic absenteeism, how has, where was the district when you came in and where is it now? I mean, we're a data company. We can sit here and say that, well, of course you need data to understand chronic absenteeism, but maybe it's not as obvious as it is kind of in my head, right? And so what has that journey been like, specifically with attendance? And then like, where are you at and where do you intend and kind of see things going?
Yeah, so I will say, chronic absenteeism is something that sort of sits in this, we call them the confounding issues part of our problem solving, right? Because it is a really, it is something that certainly appears outside of our control. Oftentimes, we're not sure what our control is there. I think where ION helps us, and I think we talked about this when we talked when we've talked before. I always tell people when they ask about ION, because I've had several reach out to me and ask, ION doesn't really solve any problems for you, right? It helps you identify problems and really what helps you to see if what you're doing is working. But if you think it's going to fix anything for you, it absolutely is not. If you're not a data user and finding ways, and so what we've done with chronic absenteeism is really had to shift some of our approach. And so when a student misses their second day in a 10-day span of time, we don't let our student information system give them an auto call. We actually call and say, hi, I was just calling to make sure Kyle was doing okay because he's on his second day absent the last 10. I know a lot of times kids will avoid school if things are going on there. We want to make sure we're aware of things. Is there something they're trying to avoid here that we need to be aware of? And so we really, again, much like focusing on the data, we have to focus on our approach. A lot of times, and I say this as a person who's done it, we approach it with a lot of blame and judgment. Why don't you just get your kids to school on time? That seems like a really easy, real easy thing. But where ION helps us is because we can see that data layered in a whole lot of other ways. We can see because if chronic absenteeism, that is a problem, don't get me wrong. But if a student is missing a lot of school, but they're still relatively successful academically, that's not a big issue for us to solve. They're doing okay, right? We're going to need to figure that out, but that one consider that's where ION is really helpful. It also helps us when we look at students we look at their academic data and we go, they're doing great, but they're missing a lot of school. We probably need to figure out why they're missing a lot of school. And without ION to put all of those things together for the student, that's what we said, exist in silos. And so if unless I have someone who's really thoughtful and they go, hey, I happen to notice his attendance is bad too. We should look at that. If I can't put that all together in that student snapshot, then it's hard to identify. So it's really helped us, especially with the quiet strugglers, the ones that they don't miss 5 days in a row, but boy, they do miss every like 6 or 7 days. And turns out we have a lot of kids that are doing that have some problems at school that they need to work on. Maybe some issues with friends or issues with bullying. And so that's where ION's really helped us with that chronic absenteeism. But again, it's all about helping us identify the right problems and putting in place the right interventions. It also prevents us from applying a intervention in math to a kid that's not at school, right? And if you're not at school and you're struggling in math, the first thing we need to do is get you to school and then figure out if you're struggling in math. And so that's where ION really helps us. get to the target of the problem and go, that's probably the biggest issue we need to fix. And so that's where that has really helped us in terms of the data.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm listening to Kevin, and he's talking about kind of the first order impacts on the student themselves. What are the impacts, the second and third order impacts that you've seen on the problem of chronic absenteeism? Because we think about those first order impacts, but there's clearly second and third order impacts to the culture of the school and to the culture of the classroom when kids aren't there. And so what do you see? And what are some, obviously the solution is get the kids in class, but how does that kind of drive your decision making and your thinking about chronic absenteeism?
So, two schools of thought here. Kevin talked a lot about intervention. When we first started looking at chronic absenteeism, we spent a lot of time targeting those kids who were chronically absent, and then targeting those kids who, exactly what Kevin said, it's sporadic, but it adds up. We spent a lot of time with those kids. We shifted our focus a little bit this year, and we started using some of our ION data to look more at growth trends. And so we were able to identify families who had significant attendance issues last year who have done so much better this year. And we've been able to celebrate them. So I mean, obviously, we know it's important for kids to be there, just like it's important for adults to go to work, just like it's important for us to show up every day. But the way it affects the family unit, and some of the stigmas associated with that has really been our focus this year. Some examples of that: we do attendance drawings. We're a PBIS school. We do attendance drawings. Most of you probably do. Kevin just gave me a heart. I don't know if he tried to do that on purpose, but he did. Thank you, Kevin. So we actually started doing drawings where we had entire family packages that they could win. So there would be 4 movie tickets. There would be tickets into a game. We did family games that we were giving out. And so and we would call the parents, and the parents would win those prizes certain months. So we celebrated the parents with that growth and not just the students. The other thing that with this school of thought too is we're talking about a data platform. And so when I was thinking about this today, I'm like, we're all going to talk about data. Is anybody going to share data, right? So I pulled our district data, and this is just in chronic absenteeism. So the first year that we were using ION to flag students and to triangulate data, Kevin talked about that a little bit too. District-wide, we noticed year end, we noticed almost a 10% decrease in our chronic absenteeism district wide. For this year, so this is really our first full year of implementation, just first semester alone, we have buildings that have upwards of 18% decrease in chronic absenteeism. And that's just one year to the next.
Yeah.
That's not where we were 5 years ago. And what we can do with that data too is we can tie it directly to the buildings that have engaged the whole family in it. If you're a building that has done family awards, family nights based on attendance and engagement, positive calls home to parents, hey, we were struggling earlier this month, but we really we know you're making an effort. The other part of it too that we've used a lot with ION is it gives us data we can put in front of our parents. Parents don't always understand excused absence versus not excused absence. I'm tardy. Am I truant? Am I chronically absent? Like, we're using those terms, and we're educators, so we get it. Parents don't always understand that EduSpeak that we use. And so the reports and the dashboards and the data walls that you can pull in ION for a specific student really were game changing for us too, because parents could look at that and go, oh my gosh. And it put it right there in front of them, or celebrate with us. So the 2 schools of thought, the first one is that celebration and how to use the data to celebrate. And then the second thought is that whole family approach with this and that communication with families.
Jason, are you seeing kind of the same, thing at Piper? Just, it's kind of I love the focus on family that you guys are doing, Jennifer. Jason, is that kind of along the same lines that you guys are working?
I love the idea of the focus on family, and one of the reasons why I love getting together with other Ion customers is getting ideas, because those are fantastic ideas that we are not implementing that I think would really, really work. So I love that you're doing that. We have seen some growth in our attendance. We just as a building, I mean, our absenteeism had been starting to decline over the last couple of years, and so every building in our district has created a goal to increase attendance in different ways. And Ion is kind of the platform. I mean, it's where we go to get that data to find out what our building rate is, look at building trends, but also look at individual students to find out exactly where do we need to target. Getting that information to the parents about the importance of being in attendance, about what does the data show, what are the national trends about the students who miss so many days, and how does that affect your your ability to learn reading at a young age, or what's happening at the high school with state assessment scores or with ACT scores, like how does attendance affect all that? And so it's getting that information into the hands of parents so they understand the importance of what we're trying to talk about. But at our building level, we take a look at a lot when we're in our student improvement teams, when we're having those kind of meetings about students. It's one of the first things that our teachers are now asking about is, well, what are their attendance trends? And we take a look at the attendance and find out, okay, what is actually happening? If attendance is a problem, where is the attendance occurring? And for some students, so we see that, okay, their attendance is actually fine, except it's Mondays. Mondays, they're only here 60% of the time. What is actually occurring? And we did not have that information before that. I mean, sure, we could have dug through our SES and try to look through all the data to find a pattern, but one click on here and I see a beautiful graph right here that, hey, this bar is not green. Well, there we go. There's where the problem exists. It's so simple to use. And then we can take a look at our building maps. We know that, hey, Mondays and Fridays are the days. I'm sure that's kind of nationwide. And Mondays and Fridays are the days. Wednesdays are our best attendance day. We assume that's because that's Chicken Patty Day here. It's here in Piper School District. So every kid shows up on Wednesdays. We know that that's a great thing. But it really allows us to look at the individual student level to find out, if there's families to talk about, because when we talk about sending home reports to families and showing them that, look, the tardies to school are becoming a problem, and look at the days of the week that's occurring. And for some families, they didn't realize that, oh my goodness, it's every Thursday we're late. Like, why is that? And we can coordinate with the families and try to find out and problem solve, like, what exactly is the problem? How can we as a school help with that? But really, Ion is giving us data information about attendance that we have never really delve into before, and it's really helping us open up those conversations with the families about how can we help better, and just getting the information that they need.
What's the lack of a better word, temperature, or what's the response when you go and talk to families? Do they take it like, guys, we're on your side, or is it more of an kind of, have you seen it be an adversarial thing, and how do you deal with that?
I think what we've noticed is the more information we have to help them, the more that they feel like we're on our side helping. Instead of just calling and saying, hey, you know what, you have so many unexcused absences, we're ready to file truancy on you. Well, that can come out to be a little bit harsh. But when we come out and say, hey, we've analyzed your data, we've analyzed your system a whole lot, and we see that, hey, when unexcused are always happening and on the same days of the week, or there's a pattern to what's happening, I feel like parents are more open to those conversations, because they can tell that we've taken the time to look into the system, instead of just saying, yep, here's the problem and here's what we're doing about it. No, we're diving in and trying to help the system, and here's what we see, and here's how we've analyzed it, and here's how we can help. So I think that the more data we have, the more that we can get parents on board to help out.
Can I share a quick story about kind of
Yeah.
related to what you're talking about? So we were trying to develop a behavior plan for a young man, and we were triangulating some of the data. We had attendance data, we had behavior data, we had grade data within his Ion platform. And we were talking to the parents and talking to the provider, and we could not figure out why this kid had no issues on Mondays, right? We're like, he hardly has any issues on Monday. He's transitioning from home to home. Monday's a great day for him. in terms of behavior. And then we flip over and look at attendance, and he's missed like 85% of the Mondays, right? And so we're like, well, there you go. So kind of exactly what Jason's talking about with just getting that in front of parents. And I mean, we could have written an entire behavior plan for this kid that would have been completely not what he needed had we not triangulated that data and said, wait a minute, what are some other pieces of data that would help us find the root cause or the need. So I was laughing when you were talking about data and how to use that with families and how to communicate that, because we would have went way off the rails had we not been able to do that quickly and communicate that to the family.
That's yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I also think it has to do, with the approach that you take. Like I said, a lot of time, I will say for us, we really weren't showing a ton of concern for you until you were starting to get close to that 6, 7 day range, right? But because we're calling you on day two, right? Because we are actually to make sure everything is okay, to see if there's something we need to do. I think that helps them hear that information a little better. And having again, having it all pulled together in one place is helpful because parents are often surprised by the way that it has accumulated, right? They'll be like, well, there's no way they've missed that many days. I'm like, well, actually, they have. And look, here's the calculation of the percentage of days so far this year. And they're like, I had no idea, right? So that's been the reaction from probably 50% of our parents have been like, I didn't even know it was that many. I had no idea. And so again, having ready access to it to go, click, here you go. We also I think Jason talked about sort of that heat map sort of thing um, because it's been helpful for us when we go to like coaches and sponsors to go, hey guys, can we lay off Thursday afternoons, please? Because see all these kids that are gone Thursday afternoon right here. We got to get some learning in. It's helpful in so many ways because you look at attendance overall, not just chronic absenteeism and parents and whether kids are here, but when kids aren't in class, you can see when we've counted them absent or they've been, then they're not there. So it's again, I certainly appreciate. We're very new, but having it all in one place has been great for us.
Sorry, I was thinking about seeing if I could get in and pull up one of those heat maps. So, but that's okay. I had a train of thought and it's gone all of a sudden. So, anyone want to jump in? Well, I kind of try to reconnect that train.
We've I don't I'll buy you some time here, Kyle. We've spent some time recently talking about one of the problems we faced in our previous platform was how to be consistent across buildings and across our rollout of any platform. And so with 3 elementaries, we have students that move around a lot, not in and out of the district, but a lot within the district. We have a lot of renters. We have a lot of students that their families will move and switch within neighborhood schools. And so what this forced us to do too is it really forced us to reset and to come back and to say, what are we all communicating to parents and what are we all using this platform for? Because if my child starts attending Skelly Elementary and I've had this list of things shown to me and communicated with me and celebrated with me, and then they transfer to Blackmore Elementary and I'm not hearing anything about any of this, that just adds to the confusion and the frustration from parents. And so because we didn't have the challenges with the product, we were able to focus on the process of how we were using it. And I think that helped a lot kind of with what both of these gentlemen are saying with family communication too.
There we go. And this can be for anyone. We have been thinking about this concept of dynamic decision making for a couple years now. And the idea is that we want, one of the reasons that Ion as a platform kind of works is because it can adapt in, I don't want to say real time, but near real time, to where you are in your decision-making processes. And so what I'm wondering is how have you seen your processes grow or shift? Because, you start going down a trail and then you take a left turn because that's where the data takes you, but now you need to take a right turn, and you need to do that relatively quickly, right? So what does that look like? And if there's any connections with chronic absenteeism, since that is the focus. But, if not, I mean, I'm open to anything. So I'm just curious about, how has that improved the turnaround time? Because when I was working at the school district, someone would give me a request for data, and sometimes it would be a month, realistically, till I could get that to them. Ion changes that, but so anyway, I'm going to stop talking and let the experts talk.
I we use Ion during our SIT meetings, and we use the forms within SIT, and so that's what I thought of is we can instantly click on a kid, it's up there. We can triangulate data, we can look at different data points, and we can do that in real time in a meeting. So we're not having to say, oh, will you go back and collect that data and bring it to the next meeting? That's probably been our biggest change that we've noticed.
Well, and again, I said several times we're pretty new, and we are really excited about that aspect. We have done none of that, but they are very excited about that. But I think Jason mentioned it earlier. So for us, as I shared before, we created first this reliance on data, right? We said to teachers, look, you need to make decisions based on data, and so they became very reliant on data, and then they would contact me and go, here's what I would like. I would like to see their state assessment scores with their Ames Web scores, with their attendance, with their behavior. Can you layer those things for me? Well, I can, but that takes a really long time, right? I mean, it just takes a really long time. And so where this helped us now, right now, I mean, Kyle doesn't know this yet, but our teachers are just making lists of things they're like, they're making lists of the wish lists, right? And I'm like,
Yes.
let's try to get started first, right, before we get too far down. But they're just making wish lists of things they want to be able to do and see. And I imagine that, the answer to most of those things are going to be yes, but it's not very often you get excitement around data review. And I think they're excited because it's so much easier, right? Because I don't have to log into three different places to get the data. And we can also layer some sort of evaluation of the data as well on top of that. And so that for us is where we're excited, is this ability to streamline. And then, like Jennifer said, we see MTSS plans in there. We see all those things. I mean, that's not lost on us. We are certainly excited about what it allows us to do down the road, because the timeliness, you can get ready access to everything you need to look at a student, get a full picture of that student. I think is what the real benefit is.
I love the fact that you said your teachers are excited, because we have had situations where we've walked around conferences and we have t-shirts that say "I love data" on the back. And I think if people would have been given eggs, they would have been thrown at us. Although with the cost of eggs right now, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case. But um, so yeah, that's really, for me, that's really exciting to hear, because my personal story, and we're not going to get into that today just because of time, but my personal story is I need my daughter's teachers to have access to everything they can to give her the best possible shot that she possibly can have.
Well, and Kyle, everybody on this call knows this, right? But I don't know that I would say my teachers love data. They love kids, and they love to see kids be successful, and they know that the path to that is data, right? They know that that is the path, right? To be able to look at them, and to look at them as a to get a full picture of their academic performance, where they are social emotionally, to find all that and put that together and target interventions for them. I think they love kids, and so they will get excited about data because of what it can do for kids. Because I think the frustration in teaching right now, and you can use this in an Ion commercial, is that we are so often trying to solve the wrong problems. That's why teachers are burnt out, right? Because they've been working their tails off over and over again and getting back marginal results at the end. And then you layer on top of that this, this public sort of attack on education that's out there, right? This rhetoric about how education
Yep.
is not doing what's best for kids, and you burn teachers out. What I love about Ion is we know for sure that we're looking at the right stuff. And we know for sure if it's working because we can look at that again and again and again and again with very little, with no effort on our part whatsoever. Just a click of a button, we can see how we're doing every single day. We can also show kids how they're doing every single day, which is, I think, it's going to be a game changer for us. I'm sure it has been for Jason, and I'm guessing this for Jennifer. I mean, it's going to be huge for us.
I'm curious. I love the fact that you talk about solving the right problems, Kevin. So all three of you, if you had to say, what are the top three right problems right now that you're working through?
Are you just saying in education in general?
No, at your district. Like, what are the top three right problems? You know, because there's a lot of wrong problems, or maybe not wrong problems, but not top priority. You know what I mean? So when Kevin says we need to be solving the right problems, what are those right problems? And I mean, they're going to ideally or in theory be different at each district.
I would say family engagement. I would say growth of the profession, and specific to Kansas, I would say enrollment and populations. Those would be my three if you wanted the right problems.
Yep.
And I might expand on Jennifer just a little more because we just went through a KISA cycle and we talked about family engagement, right? And so we're really lucky here in Kingman Norwich. Our parents really show up for everything, but they don't really know what we're doing from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock every day, right? They trust us to do that, but they don't really know how to get involved in that. And so I think family engagement in that sense is a biggie. Um, I think that one of the things that we talked specifically about data has revealed for us is that we've got to really put more rigorous instructional expectations in our classrooms because our students are able to read and perform mathematical calculation at a very proficient level. But when it comes to things like state assessments and ACT, where these are these higher level thinking things, these where they really have needed to go into a much higher depth of knowledge to be able to understand those things, we find that they're lacking in that. So we need a much more rigorous instructional expectation, I think, in terms of our academic standards. And then I would agree, really rebuilding and rebranding the image of Kansas public schools to really tell a more positive story than what gets told by the very vocal anti-public school majority out there. I think we've got to work as groups and find ways to unite. We can be competitive in basketball and football, but when it comes to serving students, we should really all be putting our collective heads together. Like Jason said, one of the best things about doing this is that I just got to hear Jennifer give me a fantastic idea that I had not thought of before. And I can't wait to go back and share that with my team because I think those are problems. How do we connect all the great things that are going on, not only just to share them so our story is accurate, but also so that we can all start using the same. So we can start sharing some of those things that are working so that all kids in Kansas will be successful. Because I think that's the measure of public schools. Are we all doing well? As long as there's one of us struggling, that means we haven't really reached out and been a great colleague to someone.
Excellent. Thank you. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, and that's where I just think going into that, I think that one great thing that ION is helping us doing is having events like this and having the ION conference that we all got, that we had a chance to attend back in October. It's bringing all those ION conferences, customers together to really talk about how they're using the system to really help their school become a data-informed school and coming up with those ideas. That has been amazingly helpful this past year or two. That really the customer service, the customers coming together has really helped us. Jennifer, meeting you at that last conference, we were able to just talk and get some really good ideas, and we had never met each other, and I had never been to El Dorado High School, so it was great to be able to talk and share some ideas, and then share some emails back and forth afterwards, just to kind of share some, to get some ideas to help each other because we're all in the same game. We're all in this. We all have the same kind of battles, and it's important to be able to help out. I think for us, just going back to your original question, I think for us, one of our biggest issues we're talking about right now is how to make our MTSS, how to make our intervention time as successful as possible. It's such a small amount of time during the day, but we have it carved out that it can really be a special time to help those students and differentiate and get the individual attention they need. But what ION has really helped us to do is help us decide what is the most efficient way of using that time to get these students the help they need. Because ultimately, it's not only going to help those individual students bring some of their skills up, but it's also going to help our teachers in that critical tier one time. If we can have strong interventions that can help support the tier one time, especially if we can use that intervention time to front load a lot of these, a lot of the standards that the students have been missing over the last couple of years, we can really strengthen the teachers tier one time and to really help elevate everybody. And we've been looking at changing our intervention time, but the reason why we can have those conversations is because we can look at the data and really decide what is working, what is not working, and if something's not working, why are we keeping on doing it? Let's make the adjustments. We don't have to throw the whole thing out, but let's continue making adjustments to make it better. And the fact that we are now always looking at the data because it's all on one platform and we can look at everything all in one place, it's just making it so simple to have those data conversations and actually make decisions that are based on what's actually happening.
Wow, that just so much good stuff here. We have 4 minutes left. And so I want to, one last question. I want to bring it down back to chronic absenteeism. And it seems to me like everybody will always talk about what the answer is. But what I'm hearing here is that it seems to me the answer is family engagement. Number one, is that right? And number two, how do you get started, or where do we don't need to fill the ocean. I talk about that a lot, right? So how do we just kind of take from where we are, start dumping little cups into the ocean, and then over time it's going to get filled, right? So if family engagement is the right way to go, what's just a simple step that some people can take to get going?
I think for us, it's been just getting families involved in our school as much as possible, getting them inviting them into the building to really help out. Our current principal here at Piper Creek a few years ago designed for instance, a family fun night that happens. We have a family fun night in the fall, and then we have a family STEM night that happens in the spring. And those are the most well-attended things outside of sporting events that we have in our district. They're amazing times for parents to get in, to meet all the teachers, to meet all the staff, and to really engage with their student in what we're doing in the building. STEM night is a great time because the kids get to showcase what their projects are. Our Future Ready presentations, where kids are presenting all the work that they've been working on for months, and they get presented to families, and families come in and just look, and kids are thrilled to share their projects. It's getting parents in. Our counselors have done an awesome job of developing our watchdog program to get more dads into the building to really help with the students and to help the teachers out and to help during lunch periods. And I think that the more that we get families involved in here, the easier it is to have those conversations about, hey, if attendance starts slipping, how can we help each other out? Just because of the fact that we know each other so well now, because the parents are being invited into the building. So for us, that's been the big thing, is how do we get more families into the building to partner with us to help out.
Excellent.
Just three things I wrote down. One of them is, I think we need to meet families where they are. So we always sometimes want our families to come into the building too. We have a refinery here in town. We've sent administrators to the refinery and had them speak with employees there who are also parents to discuss things that are coming up or things that they need to be aware of. We redid some of our crisis drill stuff. And we went to the other three biggest employers in town and said, hey, can we post this in your break room? Can we come and talk to staff at a faculty meeting that you have with your own business? And so I think we want families in our schools, but I think the bigger piece too is how are we engaging them if they can't be there as well. And so that's one thing that we started doing this year, specifically with the refinery. And we have a great partnership with them. So it was really easy to do that. I understand with some businesses you can't, but they were great. The second thing I wrote down is I love what Jason talked about with, we even did this with parent teacher conferences. We have engagement nights, we have student-led conferences, we have student celebration nights, just getting rid of some of the previous linguistics that we used around some of these things. And just making it more of a celebration, I think, is important. The third thing I wrote down is most of our parent events happen between the hours of 6 and 8. And if I'm a shift worker, if I'm a 12-hour worker, if I'm on second or third shift, I will never make those, ever. And so we have been super, super intentional about some of our events start at 5. Some of our events start as early as 4 and go to 6. Some of them start at 7 and go to 8. And so we've really started moving them around to try to eliminate some of the barriers, because I have yet 15 years in education. They might be out there, but I have yet to meet a parent that's like, I don't want to be involved in anything. I don't want anything to do with my kid. I'm going to drop them off at the door and I'm going to pick. There is a hurdle or a barrier that's preventing some of that. And I think it's our responsibility to get rid of it. So those are the 3 things I wrote down.
Outstanding. Thank you. Kevin, you got anything?
Yeah, I would just add to what Jason and Jennifer said. I think that is engaging families, right? So there's family engagement, but there's also engaging families. So engaging them in the process, engaging them in problem solving around those things, like helping them to understand more what the long-term effects are, right? I'm a parent who happened to have the benefit of also being a teacher. And so I did actually know how important it was to be in school every day. And I did actually know the things that were going on in school. But I think engaging families, so they are really a part of that problem solving. And like Jennifer said, asking them questions. So we send out uh, 3 times a year. We have parent satisfaction surveys and student satisfaction surveys. And then around events, we also send out engagement surveys that say, hey, did you attend? If you chose not to attend, why did you choose not to attend? Was there something we could have done differently that might have brought you in that didn't get you in? How could we make this a more beneficial experience for you? We know it's hard to take time away, and so we try to solicit a lot of information. And so making sure that we're actually talking with them and not talking to them, which I think happens a lot of times with parents in schools, where we're trying to really engage families in conversations about how we could be a more welcoming environment. And I think that is the key, is how do we really partner so that they understand that we're doing this with one another. And I think that's probably one of the keys to. And I think that helps with chronic absenteeism, because then it creates this sense of partnership, this sense of belonging, this sense of understanding that helps people want to support us in the mission of doing what's best for their kids.
Oh my goodness. This was so good. Thank you. It definitely became more of a commercial for Ion than I was intending, but I'm not going to say anything else about that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much again for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll do this again. This was fun. You guys are just gold mines. And so I appreciate you so much. So.
All right. Thank you for having us on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Take care. All right. Well, thank you for joining the webinar today. Thank you if you're viewing the recording. Again, great content. If you have any questions about the platform or about what our customers are doing with chronic absenteeism or attendance or behavior or grades or social emotional, please reach out to us. You can go to our website, ion-k12.com, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks. Have a good one.